crew is back. -1. We're going to get Brian on next time. We got Misha Jones, or I don't know, MJ these days. You know,
Look.
get all fancy. Get all fancy with it. We are back on the other side of the Olympic break to talk women's basketball and, of course, the New York Liberty and probably something about the Mystics somewhere in there. You know how we do. Hey, women's basketball fans, welcome to Gotta Get Up, a podcast for New York Liberty fans brought to you by Black Rosie Media and hosted by Erica L. Ayala. Hola, hola, hola a todos.
¿Cómo estás?
We are back. Welcome to another episode of Gotta Get Up, a podcast for New York Liberty fans. Erica L. Ayala here with Misha Jones.
Hi. Hello, everybody. I missed you so much. I was just telling Erica how much I miss coming on Gotta Get Up. Glad to be here.
I'm telling you. Listen, we are so happy to have you. I'm not going to spoil the party because you got a lot going on. As always, we love to have you share what you are willing to share. But I'm pretty sure everybody who listens knows that you are one of the producers of Good Game, hosted by Sarah Spain. I was recently on Good Game to talk women's hoops, so we had a little reunion over there. But I mean, how else? What you got going on? How you living, Misha Jones?
I'm living great, y'all. You won't believe this, but I finally got to meet Erica IRL, which means in real life for all you folks who don't know what that means. And she's wonderful, as you probably would have expected. That's been a highlight for me for the past, month or two I've been away. Went to All-Star. It was awesome.
That's where we met.
Yeah, that's where we met.
Officially.
Yeah. We've been working with Sarah Spain on this podcast. So if you haven't listened, listen to Good Game. And I'm newly announced member of the China Robinson's Rising Media Stars class for 2024. So I'm just like, we're living in all these wonderful things that are coming together.
Let's go. Let's go. So MJ over here doing big things. We love to see it. Felicidades to the fam. As we can see, we got Damien here, JC here. Yeah. So happy for y'all. It's so cool getting to meet online friends IRL. It's so true. It really is true. And so, hey, I'll speak for myself and MJ, of course, and Brian can say how they feel about this. But if you ever see me in the wild, just say, hey, make sure you say hi and tell me your name because I might not recognize you.
She gonna be like,
I'll be like, are you the pink letter D on YouTube? Is that Davian? So make sure you say hi. Great afternoon, Ronnie. Hey, look at that. Congratulations. Absolutely.
Thank you.
To Misha. Onward and upward. And actually, you know how we do. We do shoot around first. And I'm actually going to start with something that just came through the wire. But the Phoenix Mercury, I know. It relates to the New York Liberty. Just hang on a second. The Phoenix Mercury are hosting a reunion of the 2014 WNBA championship team. That's coming up on September 13th. And why and how is this related? Well, because Sandy Brondello, who is now the head coach of the New York Liberty, was once the head coach of the Phoenix Mercury. And according to this press release right here, the Mercury will welcome back members of the 2014 team, including three-time WNBA champion and Ring of Honor member Penny Taylor. She's probably pretty easy to catch up with these days for Phoenix, as his wife is still playing. 2014 WNBA Coach of the Year, Sandy Brondello.
Period.
There we go. And two-time Mercury WNBA champion Dewana Bonner will also be there. Also, that was a pretty easy lift because the Connecticut Sun are actually playing the Phoenix Mercury on that day. I actually opened this because I saw it come through, Misha, before we were getting ready to record. And I was like, am I going to take a look at this? And I was like, yes, I am. Because I wanted to see specifically if Sandy Brondello was going to be recognized and acknowledged. Because, of course, the New York Liberty are in season.
Yep. Yeah, but I'm glad to hear that she is because folks who remember that team, that was quite a year for Phoenix. I mean, you talk about having DB, DT, Candace Dupree, Diana, like it
Diana Taurasi.
all the E's, right? All the E's. But that was a crazy year for Phoenix, and I'm just glad that those folks are getting their recognition because we got
Absolutely.
to keep doing that. We got to keep doing.
Absolutely. And I feel like at a time, these are just vibes. I'm not reporting on anything specific, but I feel like the vibes were telling me, Mish, that maybe things weren't all well
Mm,
between Sandy Brondello and the Phoenix Mercury, just for like a scotch, like
mhm,
just for a wee bit of time. I
yeah,
mean, it can be hard
it
when you
can
leave
be.
a place you've known. And it sounded to me, especially early on in the process, like Sandy didn't opt to leave to look for other opportunities. Phoenix released her from from her duties, relieved
Yeah.
from her coaching duties. But she's with New York now. So we get to talk about her with the New York Liberty, but other things in our shoot around because, there's a lot that happens.
Mhm,
Of course we're going to talk about the Olympics, but another thing, like fresh off the plane, I feel like this news dropped. I don't even know if I had touched down yet, but De'Arica Hamby
mhm,
has a lawsuit where she names not just the Las Vegas Aces and Becky Hammon specifically, but also is suing the league. And this is all about, what is and isn't allowed, how she was treated with regard to her pregnancy in particular. And I know a
mhm.
lot of people have been talking about the CBA. I think, Misha, well, first I'd love to get just your thoughts about when you saw that the Hamby versus the Aces situation had once again been brought up, because there was an investigation by the league, and that's part of why the league is mentioned in this lawsuit, is because of that investigation, and Hamby and her side saying that that was maybe not the most thorough investigation. But what were your thoughts when you saw this pipe pop in the news cycle again?
Erica is tough because I love Erica Hamby and I love the WNBA. You know what I mean? I love watching the Aces. I love watching Becky Hammon coach. I love all these things at one time. But the thing that remains is if you feel you have been wronged, you have every right to go to the lengths and have the situation resolved in a way that you feel is more appropriate. And I feel
Right.
like with Erica, you know, all these things have allegedly happened. If I was in her shoes, I would take it and be thorough as well. Because if you don't feel like you were uh, given due process or
That's
things
it.
were done thoroughly, why would you not continue to pursue, especially in a league where I just saw a clip of her on Christina Williams' podcast. In case you missed it with Christina Williams, she was on this week saying, the WNBA is a league of progress and it's always going to be a league of progress because that's always what it has been. And I
Mhm.
think for her, this is a moment where you got a league full of folks who are having kids. Like, you want to have protections in place as soon as this league continues to reach the heights we know it's going to reach. That's going to be so important. League or kids and players are not going to just continue to sit back and let people do whatever they want to do to them, because this league now we know has value and there are a lot of folks with eyes on it supporting it. So I'm here for it. I hope the situation gets resolved as best as possible and we can continue to watch this league grow.
Yeah, and just some of the allegations. I don't know that there's overwhelmingly a lot of them that are quote unquote new. They might just be a little
Mhm.
more detailed.
Yep.
But one that stood out to me, and is something that unfortunately I've experienced in other workplaces, was this idea of asking women who were in relationships to quote unquote be better at planning to not get pregnant.
Mhm.
Um, like there's just, it's giving like high school PSA shame game to me.
Mhm. Mhm. It's
You
giving
know?
abstinence teaching. It's
Right.
giving all
It's
that.
giving like just slow motion your health teacher pulling you to the side and being like, I'm so disappointed in you, you
Mhm.
know? And so another thing though, before we move on, that's interesting is that what I think is also coming into question, which I think is a good thing. And to your point about the WNBA always being a league of progress, when we look at the gains, because we're seeing this for prioritization, we've seen this also when it comes to salaries and the increase on the high end, but not in that middle end.
Mhm.
Lexi, Brown has been very open about that. I think another thing, and Brianna Stewart has talked a lot about one, and who is someone who was just recently reelected into her role with the WNBPA as an executive vice president. She said that she wants to see more gains for families, for women and family or parents in the league. And she hasn't, to my knowledge, gotten explicit, like specific on those things. But one of the things that maybe off of the heels of Dearica Hamby bringing up this lawsuit is it appropriate for a league to, on the one hand, offer family planning support, financial support, things of that nature? So that would be more for, same-sex couples in particular. Is it appropriate then on the other side of that to demand or require that people who are in relationships where they might get pregnant to then also go through family planning if that's not something that they would, within the confines of their specific relationship, be doing anyway? I mean, I don't know. That's a question, because men, I don't think, are told to be careful when they're having sex with their partners so that they don't get their partner pregnant and that they don't have to go on paternity leave in the middle of a season. I'm pretty confident that doesn't happen. Now, that's not to say that men who do opt to use their paternity leave don't get shamed. I remember we had a player, Daniel Murphy, on the New York Mets several years ago that got a lot of heat for that. And this is like the recent past, recent history. So we as a society have some weird things in how we handle this. I think that the argument people would make is because if you are the parent carrying, then it is, let's just be 100%, whether you are carrying to full term, you are giving a natural birth or a C-section, your body is going to be impacted. Yep. Let's just keep it real. Yep. And in a sport where you use your body as a way to make an income, what is fair, right, for teams to ask that you do or not do? And right. Should pregnancy be one of them?
Yeah. This is why, like I said, I think Dearica's pushing forward on this, because these are questions that need to be answered in ducks that need to get in a row, before we're 5 years down the road and things are falling apart because so many players are unhappy or this, that, and the third. And this is not, Dearica's case is not the only case in the league with a pregnant player dealing with a team or,
hello,
okay?
Skylar Diggins-Smith.
Hello. So,
yeah. I think it's very interesting. So I think, and I appreciate what you said there, Misha, and highlighting what again was on, in case you missed it, with Christina Williams, is that I feel like this is what you're hitting on, is that there are sometimes moments where you will continue on a path because you want to continue on that path of progress, rather than whether, and I will not speak for Dearica Hamby in this situation, whether she thinks her case is quote unquote winnable or not. There is something to bringing that to the public and bringing that to public attention. I mean, a lot of people were praising the Olympics for having a nursery at the Olympic Village. I actually got to go see like a mock-up of what that looked like, and actually the actual nursery. And the fact that before 2024 that wasn't a thing.
Nope. Allison Felix.
Yep. Exactly. And Allison Felix has had her own journey with being pregnant, and that being a liability for companies like, I don't know, maybe you heard of it, their slogan is just do it, except don't just do that.
Don't do that. Don't do that. See, here you go already cutting up. We ain't been on here for 15 minutes.
Just do it, but not that. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Oh my gosh.
And expect to get your money.
Yeah. But yeah, you're making, these are real questions that have to be answered. And like bodily autonomy, man, the league is at the forefront of a lot of things outside of the realm of sports, including, healthcare and maternal care. Like, so it's just a lot of things are clashing together at one moment. I just hope we're able to, find the light here, do the thing that does help De'Erica's case, and everybody involved, but also that does help push this league forward in the best way.
Yeah, and although we're not going to get into specific details, especially now, I think because there is just a lot. We're just seeing the allegations or the things that are being contested by De'Erica in the lawsuit. So I think there are definitely some things we were hitting on the root issues, because I think that does impact how, for example, a coach or a general manager even have a conversation with a player that's pregnant, and whether or not that pregnancy was quote unquote disclosed and divulged in the appropriate manner. Like, again, that goes to bodily autonomy and all of these things. So I think I want to leave space for a larger conversation. There's definitely nuance. And even within the parameters, if you are able to make a trade or something because someone did not divulge or disclose something about their physical condition, how you go about doing those things, even when you do have the right to have certain conversations, is perhaps somewhere where we can land when we have a little more information. But yeah, anyway. All right. Before we get into, and I alluded to this already, the WNBPA announced their new leadership. I still have that from the other. So Breanna Stewart, as I mentioned, will still be a VP. First vice president is still Kelsey Plum. The president is still Nneka Ogwumike. The latter two, Nneka and Kelsey, they were not up for re-election. They're in year 2 now of a 3-year term. Breanna Stewart was reelected. I thought it was interesting, and this goes to prioritization. And if you are not already on the radar with our Seattle Storm podcast, make sure you do lock in, because Roberta Rodriguez, who is the co-host over there with on that show with me, is going to be writing a story on prioritization. And the reason I bring that up in this news cycle is because when we look at the new executive leadership, there are no international players on the executive leadership once again. And why I mention that is because the current prioritization rule, the executive committee, there were no international players. And so I think, Misha, and anyone who's been following Black Rosie Media while we were in Paris, I've been speaking to Gabby Williams. I've been speaking to Maureen Johannes. I've been speaking to Satu Sabali. I spoke to Emma Miesemann, and all of them, in addition to covering their teams and their performance in the Olympics, we talked about prioritization. So Roberta is going to compile all of that. I wrote a little bit of something for CBS Sports, but this is going to that's one of those issues, I think, as well. And as we see the Olympics and the absolute talent,
I mean, everywhere. It's nuts.
The fact that, and I like what Satu said in one of her comments, she effectively was saying that perhaps the prioritization as it was written in the current CBA was it was a little bit of an overcorrection. And now that she specifically called for Kathy Engelbert and the CBA to maybe walk some of that back. And so although Satu is not an executive committee member anymore, I was told by the WNBPA that she will be on the CBA committee. So still should have a voice and an input there. But I think we see, and it's interesting because Kathy Engelbert, I believe, was just on with Robin Roberts, and she mentioned she was just on with Robin Roberts, but she also was on. She's making her little tour around the team,
doing her little press tour. Okay, Kathy.
So she was with on the Minnesota Lynx broadcast, and one of the words that she mentioned multiple times was globalization, and I'm just like,
that's how they sprinkle it in there. Let me just use this 3 times in my little
okay, but like, what you mean though? Like, globalization, how? Because your international players are not feeling supported. But again, that's something to definitely talk about. But I mentioned Satu, De'Erica, also an Olympian, a bronze medalist for 3x3. So we're gonna get into the first quarter, because we gonna talk about these Olympics. And this has got to get up a podcast for New York Liberty fans. So if you are not listening and or watching, whether it's real time with us right now or on the replay, and aren't hella proud of the New York Liberty delegation, I don't know what to tell you. First and foremost, of course, for us as people from the United States, we have Sabrina Ionescu and Breanna Stewart, were able to be a part of that gold medal team, winning an 8th consecutive gold medal for Team USA, the 3rd for Stewie, the 1st for Sabrina Ionescu. And I mean, listen, we're going to get to that France game too in a minute. But speaking of France, Marine Johannes. Marine Johannes wins silver. And we didn't get to this on Good Game because one of the questions, and I know Lindsay answered this, but what was like one of the moments that we didn't get to capture that, you know, really stood out? And I think I maybe mentioned that Sabrina and Marine Johannes had a moment. And I did share that. But what I didn't share is that as Marine is waiting to chat with mostly French media, and I stayed there because I knew I wanted to talk to her. And I was trying to get the attention of the attaché, or like the press person that literally said attaché on their little credential. Anyway, I was trying to get his attention. I was like, Monsieur, because I've been trying to get her to speak in English, just she and I, so that I don't have to waste the French media's time by speaking in English and asking her to repeat things, but I couldn't get his attention. But in that moment, she connected eyes with me and she kind of just looked and did one of these. And I was like, just, you know, gave her one of these, like pat on the heart, and she did it back. And I was like, oh my gosh. Like, you know, like, so that is what makes it, like, it's a big sacrifice. And some of you who are part of the Slack group, you know, you saw me go emotional during but you know, it's a lot that goes into, especially as an independent emerging media company, to go to the Olympics. And one of the treats is always when you see athletes that you've been covering for years recognize you and take the time out to give you quotes. Because there's this whole hierarchy when it comes to media, and you really have to fight as an emerging media member to even get anything in a mix zone, because athletes hate mix zones. They're like, they don't want to stop. But to see Marine, Gabby was great, Satu was great. You know, I got to know Leo a lot better because I was at the Olympics, and just say, you know, on behalf of all of you New York Liberty fans, how proud we were of them. You know, Leo and Niara, I thought, had fantastic Olympics. They did not get a medal, and they contributed to the first ever Olympic appearance for Germany, which also culminated in their first ever quarterfinals, and likely will be a part of the core, along with Satu, building that German national team. And I think if that core can stay healthy, they could be a lot of trouble.
Scary business, let me tell you, because the whole time I'm sitting there thinking, you know, I'm not, and I can't say with 100% certainty when Satu was back on the court and doing things full speed, but she's coming off injury. She's been out, as folks know, for the whole first half of the WNBA season. So I was very curious as to how she would look when she got back out there. And it seemed like, you know, she was still hooping. She put up 33 in a game, and, you know, she was doing some things, but it looked like it was harder because it seems like she's still trying to get her legs under her. And so I can only imagine she's got her legs under her. Niara's no longer kind of in and out of lineups in the W season. Everybody's at full strength. Oh, it's gonna be a problem. It's gonna be a problem.
It's gonna be amazing. I did want to play some clips, but we have a lot, so I'm gonna save those. Make sure, if you're not already, you're a part of our Slack community, because I have so many audio clips, some that I've shared, some that I have not, and I'm starting to really go through those. So we're not going to do that on this show because I want to get to some other things. But yeah, I think it was a really illuminating Olympics. Also, we talked about Sandy Brandello, who will be honored as part of that 2014 Phoenix Mercury group. She talked about this in post-game media yesterday. We're going to talk about yesterday's game. I mean, the Liberty, they said, I'm coming for that number one spot. Well, I mean, they already got it, but they're trying to keep it. They're trying
Period.
to keep it.
That's my jam.
That's my jam. Don't sleep on that song. That's my jam. That's my jam. I was like, it doesn't exactly fit, but we still doing it. Okay. That bronze medal was a hard-earned bronze, because Belgium
looked great too. Hold on.
Okay, let's stop here for a moment. Pause for the cause, because Julie in international circles is Van Lowe.
Van Lowe. Okay. Yes. I didn't want to get it wrong.
Julie herself, via social media, has said she don't want to hear that in the States. So in the States, it's straight up Van Loo.
Period. Okay, Julie, say less. Say less. We'll stick with what we've been rocking with. Cool. Cool.
She's like, I love the American way.
Van Loo. Yeah.
Van Loo, super harsh about it. Baller.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Baller.
Straight up Hooper.
Like, you hear that the US team has different roles that they have to play when they're playing on Team USA. And I think the same is true for international players, but it's almost the opposite.
Right.
More often than not, unless you are Emma Miesemann or Lauren Jackson, and I think Satu Sabali, when she's healthy, has free reign on her team. We still, in the WNBA, see teams skew to a more US style of basketball. And the US stars on their team. Mm-hmm. Let's just keep it real. If it's 80% Black, like how it has to be close to that are US born players. And then if we add the Canadians as like honoraries, then that number gets even higher. But it is absolutely a league that from soup to nuts skews to the US form of basketball. And that, it's a US league. Let's keep it funky. And when some of these players go to their national teams, it's like the opposite. They play the way they grew up playing. Because a lot of these players have been with their national programs, similarly to what Sabrina has been doing in the youth development for years.
Yeah.
Natalie Achanwa, who officially retired from international play, had been on the Canadian women's senior team since she was 16 years old.
Nuts. Like, that's deeply embedded.
Right.
And imagine, Julie is with the Mystics for the first year. That's gotta be such a breath of fresh air. No shade to my Mystics, right? But that's gotta be a breath of fresh air to walk in back to your international side, who, knows you and knows all that you're capable of and says, okay, go do it. Go be Julie Van Loo. Don't go be the Washington Mystics point guard. And it's very different. Like you said, Sue Bird talked about it on, I can't remember whose podcast she was on, but playing for Team USA, she said, is the most uncomfortable basketball you'll ever play. And I feel like for international players, kind of like you're saying, I feel like we're coming to the same conclusion here. I would imagine it feels like that for them coming on to WNBA teams. It's not Team USA, but you have to conform to what's already there, and what the Mike Thibaults and the Cheryl Reeves and you know what I mean? Those folks really want to see out of their teams. They know you're talented, but
exactly,
they're just more familiar with who's here.
And, I think that leads us to a conversation we're going to have in this first quarter, because we saw that players that we have seen absolutely dominate in their respective WNBA teams, they did not play that role. Unless your name was, let me put it this way, unless you was a part of Stuja, or your last name is Young, and a little copper late in the gold medal game, you wasn't getting a green light. There was no green light. Now, I think it sounds to me, because I was in Europe, so I didn't, I wasn't as locked into the Twitter streets back home like usual. But I think a lot of people were pretty put out by what Cheryl Miller was doing with her rotations. And I was saying this in our Slack community. I forget right now who was communicating with us in Slack, but what we were saying is Sabrina Ionescu also started to get a little bit of that freedom back in the gold medal game. And it was also in the semifinals, because she didn't get a lot of minutes in the quarters, I think it was. And then she got a little bit, or was it vice versa? I don't remember how it went. But anyway, in either the quarter or semifinal, I don't think she played much at all. But in one of those games, she got in late, and I saw her, even as the game was pretty much locked up, still looking to pass and to facilitate first. But she did get, I think she got a quick 6 points late in the game because she was like, okay, there's no one to pass to. I guess I'll shoot the ball.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's not the Sabrina that we see or that we need for the New York Liberty, but that's where her mind was playing for
Mm-hmm.
USAB. And so the reason I wanted to bring that up to Sabrina is one, because this has got to get up a podcast for New York Liberty fans. I mean, she still won that gold.
It
If you
did.
want to hear my thoughts about Jewel Lloyd, make sure you hop over to our Seattle Storm podcast, because that we might need to go a little deeper into. But the conversation, Misha, that we have on our lineup for the first quarter is to grade Cheryl Reeve.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And talked about this a little bit on Good Game. I was a little surprised when Lindsay said a C, and that might be what was the term she used? I think she said it was, she gave her a C, and that was probably generous, I think is what she said on the podcast. If you're not listening, I'm following, subscribed, go check out Good Game. Your girl was on. Mish obviously is always on there, but it was a fun time. And I was surprised because I knew that there was a lot of people asking about the rotations, but to grade lower than a C for me seems like it was a little bit out of context, but also I was talking to Cheryl a lot. So I'll say my grade, and for anyone who didn't listen to Good Game, but I wanted to have you on Gotta Get Up, Mish, break down your grade because you didn't get to chime in. But I would love to hear what you think about Cheryl Reeve's overall performance. So from the beginning of the tournament in the pool stage all the way to the gold medal game.
So what I will say, and I'll start this with, is coaching Team USA, that is not a role that I envy. Okay. Coaching the U.S. national team, who came in with 7 straight gold medals, no matter how much experience you've had with them prior, every single time you go back there, that pressure is on you. Correct. It's gold or bust. You hear athletes across sports saying that. So let's start there. I think because they end up with a gold medal, I couldn't grade them lower than a B-. And that's kind of where I landed, is about a B-. Because I do think there were games that got tight at moments that they didn't need to be tight at. I think that there was a deference to a certain style of play and a rigidness within that, and a reluctance to kind of move from that, even in moments where it seemed like things got tight. For me, I'm glad you brought up Jewel Lloyd, because to me, that's the biggest between her and, like you said, Ka not really getting her shine until the very, very, very end of their Olympic tournament. To me, that rubbed me the wrong way, because I thought KP played good minutes in spurts, and KP was also a liability in spurts. And I thought that against teams that had more length, swapping in Jewel Lloyd is not really going to hurt you. You're not going to lose anything defensively. In fact, you might gain a little bit of size, a little bit of strength. So that was one thing I was confused by. And then Brittany Griner, throughout the tournament, that was a confounding thing for me, because I love BG. I will say, the way she's been playing this year is the BG I've been looking for. Obviously she's dealt with a lot in the last, couple of years. But there were moments I thought BG could have been used differently. But again, there was a deference to a certain style of play. And the last thing I'll say here, which is going to come probably as a surprise to you, Erica, you remember when I was talking about Diana Taurasi? I wasn't anti her making the team necessarily.
I remember.
I was just
you had to come to it.
I had to find it. I had to find it. I had to find it.
I'm finding it. Hold on, wait a minute.
Yeah. But I did think, when you have a vet like that, and you've got a crop of international superstars you're playing against who have evolved in their own ways in the time since the last Olympics, I understand that. But DT, I think, brought kind of a settling feeling to the team. And there were moments of chaos where I thought maybe she would be able to help. But again, this is sideline coaching. This is not, Cheryl had, I'm sure, directives. I'm sure that whole coaching staff was full of stars. You had Mike Tebow, you had Carol Lawson, you had Kurt Miller. They had a plan, and they stuck with the game plan, and they got a gold medal at the end of the day. So, but I say B-. Again, can't hate too hard because they win. But there's, a lot of question marks. I'm very excited to see what this next cycle looks like. Let me put it that way.
Yes.
Let me put it that way.
Agreed. And I think you hit the nail on the head in starting with, this is not a job that we envy. Dawn Staley is arguably one of the greatest coaches in women's basketball right now. I mean, if she's not top 5 for active coaches right now, then I don't know. You might be with that 4th place voter. But and she, as a head coach, only opted for 1 cycle.
She was not with it. She was not with it.
So there is an entire mechanism, and I got into this on Good Game a little bit. We've talked about it on Gotta Get Up and on Black Rosie Media. There is absolutely a a USA basketball, like there's an engine. It's like a living, breathing way of life.
Yep.
And the coaching staff, especially the head coach in particular, does not make and is not a part of the committee, the final selection committee. They separate church and state, so to speak. So Cheryl Reeve is handed a roster and expected to make things work with said roster. I think also what Cheryl, and this is what I didn't get to go into on Good Game, and we're probably not going to get to all of it even on this episode. So again, make sure you follow us and join our Slack community. I'll get the link and pop it in here real quick for y'all. But what I'm trying to say is that, and what I hope to be able to follow up with Cheryl on, is that she talked about how difficult it is. She talked about nobody wants to be the head coach that ends the streak.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she came closer than anybody.
1 point and a couple toenails.
A couple of toenails. Listen. And she also talked about, she was asked, what has this journey been like for her? What does it feel like? And she said something to the effect of, this was right after the semifinal win. And she says, I don't know, you might have to ask me after the next game when I can speak more freely. Because, Cheryl don't play that.
She don't.
And what Cheryl, I was asking a lot when I could get a word in. I was asking a lot about rotation. Not necessarily, the rotations to me were not great to start. And I can understand to an extent in a short, what I think, including the gold medal game, it's like 7 games.
It's not a lot of time at all. It is not a lot of time.
You have to, and we talk about this with Sandy Brondello all the time, who I think also had a choice to make in this tournament.
Yep.
And it didn't look great to begin with, but her hedging her bets on her team worked out and got them a bronze in the end. I think they, again, were kind of on opposite sides of the same spectrum, in that Sandy went through them struggles early and Cheryl went through them later in the tournament. But both of them had to find the places where they were going to stick to their plan, hell or high water, hook or crook, no matter what, the places where they were going to be nimble. And what that looked like, what that fluidity realistically could look like. Because as Lindsay said on Good Game, and she said it was unprompted, but it wasn't exactly unprompted, because I, again, asked about Kalia Copper in particular, and I had been asking her about Jewel Lloyd in the days leading up. And when Cheryl Reeves said, we cannot win a gold medal without Ka, no truer words. And she added Jewel Lloyd to that. I understand why you might want to give her a demerit for not engaging Jewel in the gold medal game or earlier on. That's one of those decisions where, for me, I don't find it as egregious as some other people, because as Cheryl had been telling us throughout in the days leading up to the gold medal game, Diana Taurasi has experienced it, Sue Bird to some extent, and even then I was like, those probably aren't the best examples. But Sabrina Ionescu, Jackie Young, have experience. She mentioned Nafisa Collier, have experience where you're a part of Team USA and you're not seeing the court.
Yeah.
You're just not.
End of the day, you can only play 5 people at a time,
That's
and
what it is.
that's the you can fill that roster with firepower, and it does not matter. You
Absolutely.
cannot give everybody all the minutes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, I think if I had to guess, I don't know this for sure, and I didn't explicitly ask. If I had to guess, Cheryl, being who she is, was cognizant of a few things. One is how much time she was going to give the Aces players with each other.
Mhm.
Now, on the one hand, that seems an obvious route to go to build in that baked in chemistry. On the other hand, especially as someone who coaches in the WNBA, how much of that do you really want to have as, and I don't know how much Cheryl cares about this or not, but the Aces are the championship team. You could argue that they have certainly at least some of the 12 best players, but are the top 4 players in the WNBA all on the Aces? No.
Right.
No. So you cannot justify playing all 4 of the Las Vegas Aces at the same time in a knockout game at the Olympics.
Yeah. Yeah. Without hearing something about it. Right.
So and because that's not the only way you have baked in chemistry. I don't care what nobody says, and everyone in these Twitter streets want to be mad. You could go yell at your mama, because we've known this for years. Brianna Stewart, or we should have known this for years. Brianna Stewart and Asia Wilson don't got no beef with each other. Like,
at all. And I loved that it was on such wide display for literally the globe to see, because we forget, well, we don't forget, but some people forget that these made up microwave narratives come from thin air. A lot of
absolute thin
these
air.
players have been
Playing with
not
each other.
playing with each other for years, y'all.
Yes, because they're
Years.
all trying to get to where they just were.
Yeah.
Sabrina Ionescu looked good with Jackie Plum
Indeed.
and Ka. One of my favorite lineups was when we got Asia and Stewie, Jackie. This was pre-Jackie starting, and then like because you can have, when you have Asia and Stewie, like Asia, you're not going to mess with her too much in playing effectively like the 4 or the 5, but Stewie can play literally any position,
Anywhere.
like 1 through 5.
Anywhere.
So then you can go smaller if you have those 2 on the court together. Right. I liked when AT was in that rotation, because on the defensive side and just from muscle.
Can we talk about AT? Like, come on, y'all.
AT also needed a little more minutes, I think, in that France game.
Yeah.
You're not going to get, I mean, in the offense, I think that Cheryl wanted them to run. It's not a like super, I mean, AT could do anything. She the day engine of Connecticut for a reason. I would have liked to see more AT, because France, and Cheryl said this after the game, top 2 defensive teams going in to the gold medal game. You need a brick wall, and that's what AT is. With regard, because I could literally talk about this game forever, but and then we'll move on. We're just gonna have to do this again. But with regard to Griner, don't have this confirmed, just going off of what I observed from Phoenix to London to Lille and then Paris. Griner was not injured, as far as I know, but did not participate in the London exhibition at all, including did not want to talk to media at all. Was very great with fans, but I just looked at BG and she was like, not today. I wasn't going to ask that because I was focused on the Liberty and Storm players. So I wasn't even going to ask for BG, but she made it very clear, like, if she didn't have to stop, she wasn't going to talk to us. And she's like, I'll get you in Paris. And then that also wasn't really a thing. If I had to guess, there was a little bit of care that, I don't know whether it was in conversation with Griner, but I think there was a sensitivity that Cheryl Reeve had to putting Griner in a situation where she would be asked for by media every night.
That is interesting. That is a very interesting consideration, because her being on an international stage for the first time since being detained, that is, and to be honest with you, before the Olympics, before London, all that was the top of mind for me with this team, is like, wow, I hope BG's gonna be okay. I hope,
Yep.
because that could be a lot. Like that can be
Yeah,
a lot.
exactly. And we've seen even in last season that there were
Mhm.
times where BG needed to step back.
Mhm.
And so when you're in the knockout stages, there are those of us who are there to cover women's basketball, and that's what we do. And then, like Rachel Nichols, for example, or what's her name? Brennan, right? Those two I didn't see till Paris, and I
Mhm.
didn't see them until the semifinal game.
Mhm.
That was the
Mhm.
first time I saw them. So BG getting minutes in the knockout stages was not going to put her under the same PR or press scrutiny as it would once we got to Paris and we
Mhm.
were in or sorry, BG in pool play versus BG in knockout stages. And then there was a prisoner swap that happened while we were in Paris.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think there was a USAB practice, maybe. It was one of the practices that I didn't go to. But I heard later on that I was like, oh, well, she's not talking. Like she's not doing any media.
Mhm.
And that had to do with the the global politics and nothing to do with basketball.
Yeah.
So yeah, exactly. I wonder how triggering being abroad was. I mean, I was already making my way downstairs while they were playing the anthem, so I didn't get to see her in real time get emotional. So that's something that I saw after, and that was a storyline after. But yeah, totally understandable. If, and again, I don't know if this was initiated from BG, if it was initiated from USAB, if they met somewhere in the middle. I can't say for certain. It just seemed to be something from my observation that was um at least somewhere in the front of the minds of everyone that was
Mhm.
there. And quite honestly, there were, again, reporters, especially once we got to the knockout stages, that they didn't ask any other players questions and they waited, because what they did, especially for USAB, literally, they were the only ones that adhered to this, but they had these pieces of paper that they slipped into, like those little plastic
Yep.
sleeves. So they slipped these printed papers with like USA 15. I'm pretty sure that was Griner's number. And then that's where you stand if you want to speak to the player with that corresponding number.
Mm. Okay.
So like crap ton of people right by Griner's number, and then just like a few people over here, a few people over there. Yeah, I get like the whole mechanism of the media circuit. Like I could geek out and talk about that, but we are not even in the second quarter yet. So we're gonna move on. Second quarter, Liberty at Aces tomorrow.
I can't wait for this.
I am like so excited for
Yeah.
so many reasons. And I think this is a huge test for both teams, and maybe somewhat in different reasons.
Mhm.
My take on where the US basketball world is right now is that people still see this as the Aces championship to
Lose.
to take, or yeah, to lose.
Mhm.
I think they're still the presumptive favorites. I don't necessarily agree with that. I'm not like angry at it, but I also think people need to put some more respect on always Connecticut,
Mhm.
and obviously the New York Liberty. So this matchup for me is going to be critical. Let's start with the Aces though, because the Aces have already lost to the New York Liberty. This will be game 2 out of 3 in the regular season. So the Liberty have a chance to take the series regardless of what happens in game 3, or the Aces can level things. But for me, so things to note. The last time these two teams played, Chelsea Gray was not available. If I'm not mistaken, Jackie Young, it might have been right before she got banged up, but she wasn't necessarily, she was definitely not USAB Jackie Young yet.
Mhm.
Neither was Plum, to be honest.
Right.
And in that game on the Liberty side, Jonquil Jones, I think, dropped 34.
She had a crazy game. Yeah.
34. But here's the thing, KT, who had a great game last night, I think 2-3 points, single digits. Whereas Benajelini Hamilton had 12.
Right.
We're likely not going to see Benisha. I don't think we're only getting 3 points from KT.
Mm-mm.
And I honestly don't think we're getting a 30 piece from JJ. So, what are some of the things that you're looking for in this matchup?
I'm first and foremost looking at Stewie. The way she shot the ball. I mean, if she stays hot, Stewie's already a problem from anywhere on the floor. But if she stays hot in particular, whoever she's matched up with, she's cookies. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
you
She's
ain't hear
stretching you.
though? She's outside of her prime though, I thought. Stewie, did you see
Yeah,
that tweet
yeah. Look,
she
look.
tweeted a glass of wine? I was like, oh, you know she saw that. Well, we know Marta saw it. If y'all
When
don't
wifey
know,
get on Twitter, it's
yeah,
a wrap for you.
let me I'm gonna put it in the show notes for anyone who is not a part of our Slack chat, because
Get
I
in the
definitely
Slack.
popped it. You got
Erica keeps
to.
us hip. Get in the Slack. Yeah,
Yo,
that
that
had
was
me
wild.
that had me weak.
Okay, but you were saying Stewie, who else you got in this matchup?
You talked about Thornton already, but Fibic, Dojkic, Thornton. To me, between the three of somebody's got to stop Jackie Young, right? So somebody has got to either at least stop or stifle Jackie Young, and I think between the three of them, that's where that responsibility is going to fall. So that's something I'm looking out for. I'm looking out for the matchups in the post. Who's going to be matched up with Asia? Who's going to be matched up with JJ? How are they going to handle that situation? I think, depending on how this is something we always talk about, I feel like, when we're talking about the Liberty Post players and specifically this matchup. But how is this game going to be officiated? For me, watching the games the first day back yesterday, it seemed like they were letting them play a little bit more. From what I saw.
think so too. Well, also, going from like Olympics to WNBA.
True.
It's like, what do you mean no one left with a black eye? I don't. What am I even watching?
Facts. But that's kind of the general feeling I got, and I would not be mad at that if that is an emphasis for the officials in the second half of the season, because to me, I'm always pro letting them play. So long as nobody is elbowing anybody in the face or clotheslining anybody, it's good, pure hard hoops. That's fine with me. That's something I'm looking out for. And then the point guards. We got the Battle of the Bay. It's Walnut Creek versus Hayward, I think Chelsea Gray is from. And that's important for other reasons come 2025, but we're not going to talk about that right now.
You know what? Don't do me like that.
I'm not. And that's why I said we're not going to talk about it right now. But I'm also looking at what kind of confidence Sab comes out with in this matchup with Chelsea Gray. Because I think not only did she get a chance to play with Gray, and you know what I mean, see her up close and personal. It's a different style of basketball completely from what she plays with the Aces, but still, to be in that vicinity and to work with somebody and then go head to head against them, I'm very curious to see if there's anything she's picked up on, or you know what I mean, I don't know, something that could help neutralize Chelsea Gray, because she's going to be coming out here with a vengeance too, with her first game against Liberty this season. Come on.
That's going to be interesting. I think you're right. Chelsea Gray can absolutely be an X factor, which leads me to ask you a question that is actually from our last segment, but people were calling for Chelsea's roster spot. I would love to know your thoughts there. I will say this. I was not sold on Fee nor Gray as a starter. Those are my thoughts. Now, giving them minutes, Fee, sure. I think Chelsea could have been utilized a little bit differently and put in a different situation but to your point, the way that it seemed like USAB wanted to play and maybe what that actually looked like instead of on paper on the court, I think that Gray coming off the bench actually gives you more. And that I mean, I did not think Sab as a 1 on this USAB team, but she actually
looked really good. She looked really good at the 1.
I was like, and there was, I got taken by surprise a little bit when I was asked the question, like, who is your key player, I think, for the gold medal game? And I had not seen the full box score because they don't run us stats. And so I knew that Ka was impacting the game. But since I have a podcast for New York Liberty fans, I was looking at Sab. And when Sab and KP and Ka were working as a trifecta, that's when USAB started to lock the French.
C'est magnifique.
C'est magnifique. It was beautiful. And so I was focused on Sabrina I
Mhm.
knew that she was facilitating to Ka. I knew who was finishing, but I was focused on Sab. And that was I was pleasantly surprised.
I was too. I can't
I
hold
was
you.
like, because I've been saying she need to get them keys.
Mhm.
She need to get them keys.
Yeah. Very impressed with Sab. And I think, in watching them against LA,
Mhm.
she looks very the way you were talking about her being reluctant to shoot with USAB.
Mhm.
I didn't see that obviously with the New York
Nope.
Liberty, but she looks
Like
more
wing it. She's in
loose.
attack mode.
Yeah, she looks more loose. She looks like she's playing more
Crazy.
freely.
What do we
Mhm.
say? I predicted, and I set you up to talk about Chelsea, and then I went to talk about Sap. But and then I promise we'll get back to Chelsea Gray. But I said two things. One, and this is actually a part of our segment coming up. I was like, Sabrina is going to play completely free, especially if they win gold coming
Mhm.
out of the Olympic break. Because it's not that she was playing bad. She's been having one of the best seasons of her career. And even on yesterday's broadcast, it sounded like a lot of that is because she was able to work out differently in this off season with being healthy and having a healthy ankle. And that has directly contributed to her lack of, at times, unquickness. The first step is still not the quickest, but the way she can bait people she has like just because my brain right now is in baseball softball mode for some reason, she has like, uh, you know, she has an off speed
Mhm.
that is wickedly deceptive.
Yep.
And as soon as she rocks back and like leans into that off speed, she takes off from there.
Yep. And the strength keeps you on her side or keeps you behind her. Yeah.
Exactly, because
Mhm.
she has a very strong, deceptively strong lower body. Like her legs are strong. Her
Mhm.
ankle might not always be the strongest. And but that goes to something that Sue Bird said. Sue Bird talked about her injuries and said, "It's not that I couldn't speed up, it's that I couldn't
Slow
stop."
it down. Mhm. Mhm.
And with Sab, it's kind of the oppo, like that explosiveness off the first push off has not been there for her.
Mhm.
But she's getting some of that back. So she's been fantastic to see. But okay, let's for real go back to Gray real quick, because I said don't think that she should have started with USAB, but keeping her off the roster entirely, especially if that meant bringing in a rookie who, in a game where in the gold medal game at least, the USA had 17 turnovers, and you want to have the leading turnover rookie in that game instead of Gray? I'm not buying it.
Yeah, I would not have been with that. I think that's a situation where it's not congruent to DT at all because Chelsea and DT are, at
Yeah,
different stages in their careers.
very
But I
much.
think it's similar in that you need that presence on the court at
Yeah.
moments, and you need
Mhm.
that presence in the locker room, and you need that presence in practice from Chelsea
Yeah.
Gray because there is I'm very tired of the she's a dog thing now because we all use it, but like she has a doggedness to her and a persistence and a swagger that I think,
Untouched.
yeah, you can't
You
emulate that with anybody. And she
Is that
needed
dang showing?
that
I'm like,
that
dang, she
doggone
said that. I'm
backpack
like,
she be putting on, man. The
oh
little
gosh,
yeah.
she be doing that. I'm like, oh,
Yeah, but you
dang
you
it.
need that. And to
Yeah,
go back to
activated.
I'm sorry, New York Liberty fans, but I have to go back to the finals last season
Here
when
we go. Here we
the
go.
the Aces had all those injuries in game 4. And what did all those players come back and talk about after the game? It was Chelsea Gray who was in my ear telling me, look, we got this, giving us the confidence, making sure we knew the scout. Like that is all intangible stuff that you don't see in a box score. And I guarantee you that was happening all the way along this journey from Chelsea Gray
Yeah,
and other players,
yeah. Well,
but
and they
specifically
talked
Chelsea.
about it post game in that gold medal game. You're
Yeah.
absolutely
Well,
right.
yeah.
It was, yes, it was discussed, and with DT as well.
Mhm.
That's
Mhm.
what they were talking about. Sabrina talked about it. Plum talked about it. So yeah, you're absolutely right there. And listen, I do think Caitlin Clark will likely be on USAB,
Mhm.
but the way her mentality is right now,
Gotta change.
fit. It does not fit with the USAB style, the
Gotta change.
selfless team first style. That's not what the Caitlin Clark effect is giving right now.
Mhm. There's a lot of maturity that definitely still needs to happen for her.
Yeah, it's not going to happen until that is worked on, and that won't happen until she goes to camp. We got to go to camp.
Here we go.
Okay?
Here we go.
Get you to camp. Get you to camp. Okay, the Liberty need to stay focused, not allowing the Aces to get into a rhythm, pick their poison against the Aces, and make things difficult for them. Now, this right here, Ronnie, Sandy, let me make this clear. Is this thing on? Hello, hello, hello. Sandy is going to have no choice but to utilize her bench. Now, why do I say that? We already talked about Benajelani Hamilton, likely out. Stewie and Sab, I'm not worried about fatigue. And Sandy is in a precarious situation because while the team is coming back, two of your most important players, and then another two in addition to that, have been putting wear and tear on their bodies. And if I heard correctly on yesterday's broadcast, they play every other night for the next 6 games. And night number 2 is against the Aces. So Sandy is going to have no choice but to utilize her bench. But who's on her bench? Misha Jones, Leo, and Niara, who looked amazing. Okay, in pool play, Germany and every other federation played 3 games. You already mentioned that Satu had like a 33-point game. I think that was in game 2 for Germany.
I think it was against Australia, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
So Satu was obviously the leading scorer for Team Germany. Niara unfortunately, went into concussion protocol toward the back end of game 1. So she only played not even 1 full game in pool play. By the end of 3 games in pool play, she was still the second leading scorer on Germany behind her sister. And then she comes back and damn near had Germany through.
Hooping.
Like, Niara hits a whole nother level when she plays internationally. And I've seen that in box scores. I've seen that in like short little social media clips, but to see it in person, gutted for her. That once again, freak accident. It was Leo that actually clipped her, and that's what made her neck kind of spin about. Gutted for her, but she's back. She played last night. Leo played last night. This team has length now. You know, I was critical of it, and then I got to see Leo play at the Olympics, like in real time. And so I'm not putting her on the post for her body mass necessarily, but she can give support to JJ. She can give support to Stewie and Niara. And why is that important? Because if they can communicate, and I do think the New York Liberty have been very actively working on this, if she can communicate and that she's coming with that help, then what does that do? It alleviates those 3 and Stewie and JJ most particularly. Oh, there you go. Get close to the camera.
Nah, because I don't want y'all to see how thick my glasses are.
From having to get into foul trouble.
Yep.
Because Jonquel Jones at her height, at her position, more often than not, is the last line of defense.
Yep.
And has played that way, I would imagine, her whole career.
Yeah.
But when you have a player like Leo, like Niara, and of course Stewie that can help, that's going to be huge. So this bench, Ronnie, is critical for the New York Liberty against the Aces and critical the rest of the way. And I want to see Niara play. I want to see her healthy. Okay, so we're going to go to the third quarter here because I think we kind of said what we needed to say about that Aces game. It's going to be a big one. It's going to be a good one, a really good test for both teams. And we know the New York Liberty are in the top of they're at the top of the standings. I think the Aces right now are 5 games back. I'm almost positive it's 4 or 5 games. I think it's 5 full games that they're
Yep, 5
back.
games back.
So a win for the Liberty puts them in great positioning to keep that number 1 spot. A win for the Aces, it puts them in a really good position to jockey for a 1 through 3. And I think they're going to leapfrog. I don't see them staying at 5. Now, who they push out, that's arguable. It depends on how Seattle comes out the gate. I guess we'll find out. They play tonight, I think. Anyway, but let's go to the third quarter because we have some predictions. You know how we like to do here. I like to, usually we do, this is going to happen if, but we're just going to do flat out predictions. So if you have predictions for the New York Liberty for the second half of the season, now is your chance to put them in the chat so we can talk about them in the fourth quarter. But let's get to these predictions that I put together mostly, and we can talk about them. Now, I put them in an order, not really of importance, but we are going to start with arguably the most pressing one, and that is Gabby Williams to New York, ? When I tell you, I don't know that anything made more sense and felt more right than hearing that there was an opportunity for Gabby Williams to come to New York. Point number 1, amazing Olympic tournament. Amazing. Point number 2, if you want to talk about long, lean, long, fast, aggressive, defensive-minded Swiss Army knives.
Who else? Like I've been such a fan of Gabby Williams since her UConn days.
Forever.
Because she's just, she's relentless.
I mean, imagine Gabby leading a second wave attack with Katie, Leo, Niara. Like, I'm about to cry. Like,
she's overcome.
That's insane. And am I just making this up? No, because Rachel Galligan said that New York, along with Phoenix and Seattle, are potential places where Gabby Williams could land. The one condition that we know she has per Rachel is that she absolutely does not want to be cored. Right now, the New York Liberty have Stewie cored, so they don't need to core Gabby. They already are thoughtful and mindful of international players, Niara and Leo, currently as Olympians, and very specifically, currently on the roster. We know Maureen Johannes has been with the New York Liberty. And also Gabby Williams, again, if you're in Slack, you probably have already heard this audio clip, but Gabby Williams, definitely the president of the Maureen Johannes fan club. That is an official title that will not be rescinded anytime soon. I have it on good authority from Gabby herself. So like if Maureen is coming back eventually, which I see no reason why she shouldn't, from the New York Liberty perspective. I mean, Maureen got to do what Maureen got to do, but come on. Like the only thing that we have to be mindful of is where this fits with salary cap. And we know Jackie Powell has reported on this. Miles Ehrlich, we were all together talking to Jonathan Kolb during media day. The idea had always been to leave a roster spot open in case they needed to, after the Olympic break, bring somebody in. I would love to see Gabby Williams on this team. And I do think that Gabby is a player that I don't think she's uncoachable, but maybe I can relate to this. If you get Gabby in a headspace where she's not able to understand the if, the how, or the why, like if a coaching staff can't explain that to her, then you're not going to get optimum Gabby. Like that's my interpretation of it. And I get the impression that that's not how Sandy and her staff operate. Now there's a difference between not liking something and not understanding it. And I think that's what I respect about Sandy's coaching style, that I think Cheryl Reeve had to get comfortable with. She hasn't mastered it in the same way that Sandy has. Sandy sticks to her guns and she keeps the doors of communication open always. The priority for her is to make sure her players feel supported, feel appreciated, and know what their role is. Even if they're not quite ready to commit to that, they know what it is.
Right.
And they know that Sandy is going to do everything that it takes to get that player to where they have to be. That sounds to me like a great coach to have Gabby Williams work under.
Yeah. And you talked about, all the different connections that she has with this team. She's got her French teammate in Marine Johannes. She's got her UConn teammate in Brianna Stewart. Like, this is and speaking of France and New York, hello, come on, Twin Cities. Like, there's just it just feels too good.
I know.
Not,
that's why I'm like,
I don't want to jinx it for y'all. But I would love to see her in this.
Okay, real talk. Between the reported cities, Phoenix, Seattle, and New York, who do you think has the least chance of bagging Gabby Williams contract?
Phoenix.
Yep. Okay, we're in agreement there.
Ain't no way.
No. Ain't no way. No. I was like, no.
Phoenix has their own thing going on that's working for them now.
I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it. I could see her going back to Seattle as well.
Just because of the familiarity. But do you think she would want to go back to that, or would she rather have a fresh start? Because to me, you did what you could do in Seattle. You showed them what you were capable of.
Yes, and I mean, Seattle of last year versus Seattle of this year.
True. Yeah, so I don't know. I think those are the two actual realistic destinations for her, if that's even what she decides she wants to do. But
yeah, I mean, we've I mean, they got NECA. They don't need Gabby. Don't get greedy. Don't get greedy, Seattle. But either way, if either one of those cities does work out, you know what, Misha? We'll have Gabby Williams fans covered right here on Black Rosy Media. So either way, we win. Okay. I'm not ready to predict that she'll come to New York, but I definitely think it's top two. It's top two. Honestly, if I'm being honest, for real, I don't know that we see Gabby in the W this season.
Yeah, that's why I said if she even wants to do it at all, because it's there's so many things just with the league in flux. And I'm like, she might just want to come back to a clean slate, not just for her with another team, but a clean slate with the new CBA, clean slate with, so hey.
I mean, I don't know. If I'm her team, I'm thinking who has the better chances at a title? That's obviously New York. I don't know a player that is competitive that doesn't want to win a title. I don't know how she feels about the politics of quote unquote ring chasing. I mean, I don't like how people kind of use that term, period. And I think that Gabby Williams and the New York Liberty would both be making smart choices, like smart basketball and business choices, if they were to link up this season in particular. Now, how long that lasts, who knows? But it just seems almost perfect. Like, it just, oh God.
Especially after, I mean, no shade to her, but especially after losing the way that her team did in the Olympics, that's a thing. And for a competitor,
she ain't scared.
She's not. And so she, I don't know. I don't want to say too much. It's just gonna fall where they fall. But yeah.
I'm trying not to like fall in love with it too much, but damn.
It would be nice. Damn. It would be nice.
Yeah. Okay. We're gonna move on. Okay. Okay. This one is bold, and yet I feel good about it. We're gonna skip down to number 4 to take the levity. Yeah. Ellie the elephant. Ellie the elephant will get Beyonce to a WNBA game.
Period. Point blank period. Because Ellie is gonna be Ellie in a sleek blonde ponytail.
Oh,
okay. Her silver knee highs. All right. Her and Beyonce go walk in that joint.
Ooh.
And set it off.
Burn.
Period.
Come on, let's
Period.
go. Period. Like, that's it. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
I can't wait for the get ready with me.
Mm-hmm. Get ready
Um,
with me to see my girl Beyonce. Yeah, it's gonna
yeah.
be. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be
Yes.
great.
Stewie will soar in the second half. Yeah, I feel like from like day one, I have been saying this. So this is not even a new prediction. Like, this is auntie vibes. I'm claiming it. Stewie, everyone was like, "Oh, she's not shooting the three at her usual clip, so obviously she's outside
She's
of her
washed.
prime." First of all, I feel like we talked about this before. Stewie's off stats are MVP for anybody else except Asia.
In a league without Asia Wilson, she's the MVP. Yeah, this season. Yeah, yeah. Even with the bad, not even bad shooting percentage from three. That's see, it gets in your brain. It gets in your brain. She's not shooting the ball the way she usually does. But y'all, let's not overreact here.
And then
Let's
she was
not.
like, "Oh, y'all got something to say about it?"
Period. She heard you. She heard you. She said, "Oh, bet."
She's like,
Got
"Loud
you.
and wrong." Let me come with my wine emoji. I've been predicting this for a while.
Yeah.
I think she didn't go overseas for the first time. New baby in the mix, new team. Stewie has been used to such a grueling schedule and is now in that in between where she's recalibrating it. I predicted that she would get it together by the Olympics because Stewie has said as much. She loves, or it was reported, I guess she said it to what's her name? Holly Rowe. She loves playing for USA basketball. She prioritizes playing for USA basketball, especially in Olympic years. That is her focus. And now that, similarly to what we said about Sab, now that that's out of the way, she ready. Let that thing fly, as a former New York Liberty head coach used to say. Yo, when Katie Smith used to say that, I was like, whose auntie was invited to the cookout? She's like, yeah, sometimes you just gotta let that thing fly. I'd be like, Katie. Oh my God. Katieism's hilarious. What a time to be a New York Liberty reporter. Anyway, we're moving on. And this is the one in the thumbnail, if you're watching on YouTube. Sabrina, MIP. MIP.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there are a lot of people, and this is the same question I have literally across the board for all the awards. There are so many people saying, well, it should be this person for this reason. Well, it should be this person for this reason. Until we get to a point where everybody's at a consensus on why a player becomes the MIP or the MVP or the rookie of the year or the depot, like until we come to a clear consensus on what criteria there are, everybody's gonna have a different opinion. For Sabrina Ionescu, a lot of folks are like, well, how long has she been in the league? Well, she's this, that. Like, folks, look at the way she played last year.
Right. And now look how she's playing. Like, it's not hard. It's not hard. It's in the title.
It's right there for you. It's right there for you on a platter.
It's in the title. Now, listen, I've been saying this on the Twitterverse, in the Twitterverse. And I feel like I've probably said it a time or two here, but what's really grinding my grits right now is that
grinding your grits.
Yes. It is grinding the grits, burning the grits, grinding my gears, put together. The two together. That's how you know it's bad. It's grinding the grits.
I want some grits now.
What's burning my grits is people who have always, for years, been MVP, best player, best team. Because
no, valid, actually valid. Yeah.
The consensus MVP for a lot of people this season ain't playing for the New York Liberty.
Yeah.
And I mean this wholeheartedly. I don't agree with why people are saying Asia Wilson is the most valuable player of this season, because I think they're talking more in what I would categorize as most outstanding player.
Mm.
But for Asia Wilson and the Aces this year, her being the best player in the WNBA is likely, and I don't even know how likely, it's very probable, as in, is the overall reason why the Aces don't have more losses.
Mm-hmm. Hence the valuable. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
She's been and has gotten emotional this season about feeling that she's not good enough of a leader at times because she hasn't found a way to get the team where it needs to be independent of her performance.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that is so like like I feel like it, like that's so, I don't even have the word. She has transcended. When I heard her say that, when I saw her emotion, to me, I was like, yo, this chick is
That's the mark of
about to
greatness.
go to places no one has ever seen before.
Mm-hmm. It's the mark of greatness, man.
The focus is magnificent. I love to see it.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely love to see it. And that is why she is making a strong case for MVP for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because there have been times where people have put up with respect, not to her specific numbers, but to her performance. I will never forgive y'all for not giving Tina Charles that MVP. I ain't never gonna forgive y'all for that.
Yeah.
Ever. Oh, well, and no shade to Nega. Nega was the more efficient player. It's not most efficient player.
The adjective matters, people. The adjective. Words mean things.
Words mean things. And listen, I still think, going by how I look at MVP, Asia is still the MVP. But I really want to hear from y'all because I'm a petty auntie. I really want to hear from folks who've been telling me, oh, well, you're just so literal, Erica. It's so cute. You're so literal. MVP is best player, best team. You played yourself. You played yourself, because I promise that you're not going to not vote for Asia Wilson. And that, I'm okay with that, because I ain't never committed to best player, best team. But some of y'all out there, you've been saying it loud for years. And I just want to know where you at. You putting Stewie on the ballot or not?
Call him out. Yeah, that's gonna make a lot of people mad, but it's true.
It is.
But it's true, because when you've had enough people in your replies telling you you're wrong for a very specific reason, and now they're ducking smoke for the same very specific reason. Hey, you made your bed. You gotta lie in it, people.
That's what I'm saying. So, I mean, it's still Asia for MVP for me, but not for the same reasons that a lot of people are out here. And I'm just saying, best player, best team, best rookie, best team. Okay, well, I just think that's, I don't know about all that. This is a little strange to me. Okay, what else we got on here? I think we went through them all. Oh, I left number 5. I said it was gonna be 5, but then I couldn't decide on the 5th. So what we got? You got anything fun, Misha? Predictions for the New York Liberty? The New York Liberty will beat the Washington Mystics by the
See, I don't even want to play this game no more. Because why would you say that? No, I'm gonna make a prediction just on your behalf and on the behalf of all the New York Liberty fans watching this right now, because we just had this discussion. I'm gonna predict that you get Gabby Williams and that she has a freaking immediate impact on this team, because for me, that's still that defensive I don't even want to use the word grittiness, but
it's grit. It's like, I know she's into like Japanese anime, like she's coming with the freaking samurai
katanas and
sword,
whatnot. Yeah,
like just coming to slay, and I am absolutely here for it. And it is absolutely what the New York Liberty need. Like, let's not play.
To take them from, I mean, Connecticut's 3 games back right now, so
Yeah.
it's tight, but it's not super tight. To
But you
take
see
them to
what
that
they did.
next Yeah, you see you see what they did, but
They
to
come
take the
in.
New York Liberty to that next tier, I
Yep.
still think that that's what they need, and I
They
feel
need
like
something like
I
Gabby.
just wanna selfishly see what it looks like at
Yeah.
this point.
I mean,
So
and we'll have to get someone who's a little bit better at like the salary cap management, because again, per Jonathan Kolb early in the season, that's kind of had what they had in mind. I know that Sherrard is still on a 7-day right now because of some hardship, so they'll have to figure that out, but that's not a large salary, and it's going to offload itself effectively by the nature of the term 7-day contract. So they'll have to figure out some other things, but I think they could probably make it work.
yeah, that's my biggest question is, if Jalen drops off the roster, then who else has to go to
Yep,
make room for
exactly.
Gabby? Who else has to go? And so that might be a little bit heartbreaking if it comes to that. Again, I'm
If it
making a
comes to
prediction just
that. No, I think you're
to put
right.
it out there for the people, because it seems like
Yeah.
Erica and company might really enjoy seeing that
I
move.
mean, yeah, like I said, I said I was going to leave it to other people, but I'd be lying, because of course I looked at her hoop stats, and I looked at what they have for the salary cap, and you're right, they would have to have another player because they have like 23 last I checked. Let me look at it again. They have oh wait a minute.
Is my math wrong?
Did they do something? Because now these numbers look different from the last time I saw them. See, wait a minute, hold on. Wait a minute. Is this
Wait a
old?
minute.
Okay. I was like, ain't no way. Okay. Because I had to toggle to the right year, because I was like, why is Hanju on this? Don't do it
Don't
to
play
me.
with me.
Don't. I was like, do not do this. Do not. I'm not. I was about to go off. Like, we not doing that. China, I don't know what happened to them. China went from like a contender to pretender in like a year, one cycle.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
That was kind of tough to see. I don't know. Okay, it's not working now, so it wasn't meant to be. But yeah, check out her hoop stats. They have the salary cap information. I don't know that a 23K salary is going to be enough to bag Gabby, so they're going to have to offload something. And again, the Sherrod contract is not even 5K. As listed. That's the hit that they're getting. So now what does that mean for the New York Liberty? Honestly, I mean, do you offload? Then you have to look at the salaries that are not that are guaranteed versus not guaranteed. Sab's contract is not guaranteed. Stewie's is not guaranteed, if I remember correctly.
Fevich, Dojkic, Davis.
I was gonna say Dojkic and Davis.
Yeah,
might have to be. I'm not getting rid of Leo. I'm team Leo now.
A word. You're convinced.
I'm team Leo now. Yeah, I was like, I don't know about this, and I was like, okay, I take it back. All right, sis, you got that.
Yeah, but for Gabby Williams, I can see them making that move. But
Yeah,
all hypotheticals, people.
all hypotheticals. We don't know.
All hypotheticals.
All right. Damien says, I don't think that Sabrina should be voted for most improved player because she doesn't step up defensively like Dejanay Carrington, in my opinion. Okay, but Dejanay Carrington has always played good defense. Sabrina Ionescu's defense has gotten significantly better. Sabrina Ionescu playing defensively, especially with Team USA, I think even against an LA, I mean, it is LA, so, take that for what it is. I mean, LA is on the struggle bus. Yo, Kurt Miller is hilarious because he promises they're not in the, what did the term they use? Oh, he says we're not in the Paige Becker's sweepstakes.
Oh, okay.
You sure about that?
Oh, okay.
Sure about that? You sure about that?
You might want to reconsider.
You sure about that?
Fill out that application. Okay.
Yeah. Dejanay Carrington, great defensively. And I love defense. Y'all know I love defense. Here's what it is. The improvements that Sabrina has made season over season to her game versus what Dejanay has done, and then also factor in the consistency. Sab has been a more consistent player with the things that she's improved on. She's getting downhill. Her mid-range floater is on point. Her defense is better. Her first step is better. All of those things contribute, in my opinion, more significantly and more consistently to the success of her team than what we're seeing from Carrington. Carrington defensively, especially a healthy Carrington, because Carrington also was not healthy last year. And that's another thing. I feel like MIP is too often a proxy for immediately for a player who was injured last year.
Comeback player.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So that's interesting. And I'm going to go with what I said. The Liberty may have home court advantage, or would they? Right now, yeah, they'll have it. They'll have it. And I think I do not see them losing more games. I don't see I'm trying to think of like what's the right way of wording this. I don't see them losing the amount of games that they would need to lose for like the Aces, for example, to leapfrog to first. Like I don't see them losing a 5-game advantage at this juncture. I mean, it could absolutely happen. Do I predict that it's going to happen given how the Liberty are playing right now? No. I think the Aces will also leapfrog, but I don't think they'll, and that's why, again, Saturday's game is really intriguing, because if I'm the New York Liberty, I'm doing whatever it takes to win Saturday. Mm-hmm. Don't even leave it to that last game. Win, take the season series. Because it doesn't matter what happens in the third day. They will always have that in hands because they only play each other 3 times, if I looked at the schedule correctly. And they already have the first win.
Yep.
Win at all costs. Then they'll have the advantage. They already have the advantage over Connecticut. Then you get the advantage over the Aces. The Lynx beat them once or twice. Did the Lynx beat us twice this year?
Have y'all played them twice? Hold on.
We definitely, because Commissioner's Cup, but that doesn't count.
Yeah, that's what's jacking me up because those games don't.
So I think technically we have played them twice, and we've lost to them twice, but in the regular season, only one in the regular season. I think the Lynx are the team more likely in the top 5 to plateau than any other team.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was.
Oh, yeah. They'll have to waive Sherrard, period. She's only on a 4-day. 4-day. A 7-day.
God, 4 days crazy. A 4-day contract is crazy.
Maddox says Liberty are winning a championship this year. All right, there you go.
All right, now Maddox. So back to what you just said.
Yeah.
You think Minnesota's more likely to plateau than Seattle?
Yes.
Okay.
I do. I think we've already seen it. If I'm not mistaken, the Lynx were they at 500 in their last 10 leading into break? They're 5-5 in their last 10. Is that right?
Something like that. They're 5-5. In Seattle, they too.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Hey.
Yep. Amir Lewis, we did talk about the possibility of Gabby coming to the Libs. We like it like a lot.
You got to rewind.
We like it a lot. My gut is telling me that it might be more likely that Gabby doesn't come to the W at all than that she comes to the New York Liberty. But I think if she does come to the WNBA, that the Liberty are
top 2 teams you could end up with.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's either the Liberty or Seattle. If she's coming at all, it's the Liberty or Seattle. I really think it makes so much sense for her, just stylistically from a pure basketball perspective. Because that's another thing. You're not going to have as much time as you would want to integrate her completely. Right. Gabby gives you the tools that the Liberty could use immediately to leapfrog and improve. Immediately.
Yeah.
And the chemistry, she knows and respects the players on the Liberty squad. I mean, I would say that for probably other teams, but we're not talking about them teams.
We talking about the Liberty.
We talking about the Liberty. She
Because
got
this is the podcast for New York Liberty fans.
That's it. Got to get up. Agreed. The Liberty need to take the series against the Aces and to win at all costs in the second half and treat it like it's game 7. Treat it like it's game 4.
Damn.
First of all, we don't go to game 7s. We don't go to game 7s in the W. So you treat it like game 7. I don't even know what that means.
Mm-hmm.
We don't do game 7s in the W. I wish we did, but we don't. No, treat it like game 4 in 2023.
Mm-hmm.
But like how it was supposed to be.
Not too much like game 4.
Like think of it as your redo of game 4.
Here for that. Here for it. Who else has questions?
Yeah, let's see. I think we got to everything. Oh, this was interesting. Brianna Stewart can't soar like that every game by herself, so let's not get ahead of ourselves. Okay, first of all, Damien, prior to talking about Stewie soaring, which also I've been talking about all season. What else did we say? The bench is going to be key for the New York Liberty in the second half. Okay, maybe that was really prediction number 5, but period. And not just for the second half, for the next 5 games.
Mm-hmm.
There's the New York Liberty absolutely will not be able to maintain the number 1 spot if they do not get their bench activated. And I've had a lot of questions about Niara because of her propensity for injury, which unfortunately we saw play out at the Olympics. But when Niara plays, and we talked about that earlier, she's hooping. Leo at the Olympics was amazing to see.
Mm-hmm.
Leo she ain't scared. She ain't scared of your favorite WNBA player. I'm gonna tell you right now. Like, if you really watch Leo play, she don't care. She don't care who your favorite is. She blocking their shot.
Mm-hmm. She's out there to play. She don't care who you match her up with. Yeah, that's real.
Period.
But I think, you also alluded to it earlier, coming off the Olympic break with Sab and Stewie specifically. I'll also say Stewie can't soar unless Sandy decides she's going to incorporate the bench work, because you don't want to. I don't think at this current moment they're in danger of it, because I think Sandy's still very cognizant of it, because she's probably still jet lagged herself and still feeling the effects of Paris. Mm-hmm. But keeping them in the game when they could easily sub in a Phoebich or sub in a Thornton or sub somebody in who can spell those minutes is running into the exact same trap that was run into last season. And I think they know better. I think they know better than that.
They do know better. And I think we saw that earlier. And I think at earlier in the season, I very admittedly so was not feeling it. But what was the issue? Because we were talking about how upset can we be with a team that was at what were we talking about? Maybe like 12-2 or something crazy like that. Like they had only lost 2 games and it just didn't look great. Mm-hmm. But that goes back to what I said about Australia. Australia did not look great, but they found a way to win. Mm-hmm. Sandy, in my opinion, and we talked about this even in the offseason at exit interviews, Jonathan Kolb committed to having a more athletic bench, second squad, because they know they're going to need them. I think that Sandy Brondello used Leo especially a lot more than at times I was even comfortable with in the first half of the season. Mm-hmm. She couldn't use Niara like I think she wanted to, because she was dealing with an injury, and then Sandy knew that she was preparing to go play for Team Germany as well. So they just didn't have her available. But if you follow Jackie Powell, she talked to Olaf specifically about Niara's role and being kind of that spark and captaining the reserve group. Yeah. I still think that leadership likely in reality belongs to KT.
Right.
But I understand better now why Olaf said what he did to Jackie, because I saw Niara put Germany on her freaking back in that quarterfinal game, coming back from concussion protocol, because Satu did not have a great quarterfinals. She was gutted about that, very hard on herself about that. But that's what happens when you're in a knockout stage and you have Scout. They shut Belgium shut Satu down. They understood the assignment.
Yeah. Plus, I think by the time the tournament started getting into the knockout stage, I think she was gassed. She
I
looked gassed to
think
me.
I think it was more frustration. I think she was. How do I want to say this? Okay, like the inner monologue that Monica Wright has with herself in.
Come on, Ma.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and how at the end though, when she misses that shot, her language to herself is completely different, and that's like, oh gosh, that movie is such a masterpiece, and I feel like it deserves more respect. Because in that sequence, Monica goes from very confident to questioning herself. And the sequence we're seeing through her eyes, like literally, right? Like the camera is like on her chest.
It's one of my favorite, like.
It's so good. It's so good. And that last shot, she literally is like, please, please, begging instead of like, yeah, and we're in the dialogue earlier is she's anticipating. She knows what's happening, and it's very calculated. That last shot was anything. It was desperation. That's, if I had to guess, more of what you were seeing. I don't want to do that. That's what I think I was seeing more than it being a physical fatigue for Satu.
Okay. I mean, both are really real though. Cause like once you're y'all ever done a math test and you just couldn't figure out the answer no matter how you tried? Like all 4 of them answers are on that page. And when you looking at that calculator, what you got in that calculator window don't match none of them answers. You keep going through. And that's a kind of fatigue as well, man.
Yeah, it is. And I think she couldn't unlock and was putting a lot of pressure on herself to figure that out. And in speaking to, because I spoke to Satu a lot throughout the tournament, I spoke to Lisa. She was very giving of her time, and I'm so grateful. But I knew Lisa from when she was the head coach of the Canadian women's team. And so again, she's one of those people, happened to be a coach that gave time to media that she recognized from elsewhere. And she was very transparent with a lot of what was happening with the Germany squad, including that she acknowledged what Satu said, or, that Satu didn't have the game she wanted. But what Lisa's interpretation of that was that Satu was doing almost too much to try and be the go-to. She did everything except settle into what was being given to her and then really play more of that facilitation role. And if she had done a little bit of that, I think that would have opened things up for Leo a little bit more. Again, Niara was right there and really had a good game in that quarterfinals. And that was something that Belgium didn't necessarily have scouted, because Niara we didn't even know if she was going to be out of protocol for that game. Anyway. Oh gosh, like I really, this is why I love long form, because there's so many storylines from this women's basketball tournament, and there's so much audio that I have that I would love to like digest one by one. So you got to join the Slack channel.
Get in there, folks.
I'm gonna commit to doing some of that in the coming weeks, because I'm just like fascinated. What are my predictions? Record wins and losses in August and September. Okay, let's do this one because I think it's a really interesting one. And then we'll close out because we've been here like forever. Per usual. Like we were like, let's do
Ain't nothing new.
We're like ready for the games tonight. Girl, no. Okay, let's see. Hide previous games. Let's see. Because this is a really important stretch. So today is the 16th. So August is Dallas twice, Connecticut, Phoenix, LA again, and then tomorrow Vegas. Okay. So that's 7 games in August. I think the Liberty will go. Ooh. 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 I mean, or what a 6. I was like 7. Girl.
Amir says 5-2.
5-2. Okay, wait, hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4,
Well, they
5,
got LA again, so that's a
6,
guaranteed dub.
7. Oh, it is 7. Okay, it's 7. Um, yeah, they're gonna win against LA. They play Seattle on the 30th. They play Phoenix. They play Connecticut. They play Dallas twice, and then of course they play Las Vegas. I think it is 5-2 is probably what I'm leaning towards, and I honestly think that's probably a conservative guess. I think it's very possible, especially if the fatigue hits in, that they drop 2 games. I
Mhm.
don't see them dropping more than 2 in the next 7 in
Yeah.
August.
Because 2 of those are Dallas, I think that's 2 guaranteed wins. I think LA is a guaranteed win, so there's 3 on its own. But I'm a little iffier on these other ones. Connecticut's tough.
Connecticut is tough, and we've had their number going back to even last season.
True.
We don't need to win against Connecticut for the head-to-head, but we absolutely, again, need to win games to stay at the top of the table. I agree with you. Connecticut is tough. Phoenix, I think we can win against Phoenix.
Agreed.
Uh,
Seattle, I think y'all have Seattle as well.
I
Their
think we
number. So
can.
that's 5. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think, yeah. The question mark for me is Vegas, even though I do think that we can win against Vegas again. And I'm not as convinced. I think if we have a hang up, it's either going to be Connecticut or Seattle
Mhm.
because of what those teams need to do. And Connecticut made the most waves with respect to player movement
Mhm.
in the break.
Yeah.
They're really not trying to be the bridesmaid no more. And
At
so
all.
they already lost the head to head to us. So that's not going to affect if it comes down to those 2 teams for home court advantage. But again, the wins and losses still very much matter.
Mhm.
And but that's at Barclays. I I don't want to overlook Phoenix completely. And again, we might just catch them in an interesting time in this swing. But if I'm going to predict right now that if we lose twice, it's going to be either Las Vegas, Connecticut, or Phoenix that
Yeah.
we lose to.
Because them folks at Footprint, let me tell you, Footprint Center, them fans.
Or I said Seattle earlier, but I think Phoenix. I still think we're going to win against Phoenix, but Seattle. And then what's interesting is that talking about September, so we play Seattle, Vegas, Dallas, Minnesota, Washington Mystics, and the Atlanta Dream. So that's 8. Not losing to Atlanta, I don't think. Not losing to Washington. I think we take the game against Minnesota. I think we take the games against Dallas. So then that leaves, what do I think the New York Liberty are going to do against Seattle and the Aces once again? I don't think we lose to Seattle twice in a row, if at all. So I think they have a chance to. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Okay, no, that's right. This Saturday's game against the Aces is the second game. I was like, wait, did I miscalculate? No. Okay. So September 8th at Barclays. Oh God. Why did I just get ill looking at that game? I really just got ill. Like I need us to win. I honestly, it's not a prediction. I'm just telling y'all how I feel. I honestly, genuinely do not care from like a pride perspective what the New York Liberty do all of September, but they best not lose on September 8th.
Not at Barclays.
Don't lose that game. Do
Mm-mm.
not lose that game.
Yeah, because that's one of those things. Like, I always am weary of teams, especially teams that go like undefeated, because all it takes at that point
Mhm.
is just one
Mistake.
mistake, one momentum kind of swinging loss to change the trajectory of your season, or to change the amount of confidence that players have going into the playoffs, or things like that. Like,
Yep.
so I can see, there'll still be some time, if worst case scenario happens on September 8th, there'll still be some time for them to get their confidence back together. But I think
Yeah,
that
I
head to
mean,
head matchup is
it's not the
important.
end of the world. It's not the end of the world. I don't think that they lose these next. They're not going to lose both of the next two games to Las Vegas. Is my prediction. I think they
Yeah.
have a better. Um, yeah, I don't know. I'm not really quote unquote worried about Vegas. I think what happens against Vegas is going to happen. Like,
Mm.
you know, I think you can't get so worked up about those games if you're the Liberty players. Now, as a Liberty reporter and fan, I'm telling you right now, I'm gonna get worked up about September 8th. That's a me thing. That's a me
Mhm.
thing. I do not want to see Las Vegas win in Barclays. I can't. I'm not trying to do that.
I hear you.
I
I
don't
hear you.
I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. It ain't gonna happen. So I think so I said maybe they'll drop two in August, maybe another two in September, maybe three. I still think that's more conservative. I don't know that they lose 5 games.
Mhm.
And that seems wild to me though. That makes like saying it out loud is making me a little nervous though. But I don't know that they lose 5.
They've been playing well. Like, it's just the fact of the matter is, and I was curious, not just with them, but with all the teams that played Thursday, of how folks would look coming out the gate, because that's a long break for certain
It is a
players,
long
and for
break.
some players, it's not a break at all. And just meshing all that back together, getting back to playing the basketball that they were playing before the break,
Yeah.
to see it come together so quickly. And granted, they played LA, so I mean, all right,
Yeah.
but they look good. They look good.
They look good. And what I liked is that they knew that they felt that for them it was a whatever it takes kind of game.
Mhm.
And I thought that was an interesting headspace to be in against a team like you said, LA. But I think that's the discipline that was lacking at times last season.
Mm.
And if you listen to the mic'd up in the huddles, and Sandy flat out said, do not look at that scoreboard. You do what you need to do, period. Go after it. Go get this game. I don't care what the score is. Don't look at, like, she said something to that effect. Like, don't look at it.
Mhm.
Play.
Max out, yeah.
Play the game. And I think that was and I think we talked about it before, but there was something that Sabrina was saying about how this team, they can check each other in a different way that they didn't feel comfortable doing last season. In the post game yesterday, they talked about, and it makes me like, I cringe every time they say, we really love each other. I'm like, y'all mother, like, stop playing into that freaking tired ass.
Don't worry about that, yeah.
Like, a part of me wonders, I hope that this is what they're doing, that they're just throwing shade, like that's their New York Liberty version of posterizing things. You know what I'm saying? Because they
Yeah.
just see it so much. And I'm just like, God, I hate that. But now that I'm choosing to believe that that's what they're doing. They're mentioning it because they are absolutely,
They're trolling.
yeah, exactly. They're like,
Mhm.
we heard you. Oh, we heard you.
Mhm.
But I've talked about this before. I absolutely did not. I love Kelsey Plum's game. Really respect what she has been able to do in her career. And I hated those comments. I thought that was absolute trash to say. Like, absolutely. The words and how you configured them in that moment were trash. And I do believe that there is a different commitment level this year for the New York Liberty than there was last year.
Mhm.
And why is that? Because you don't know what you don't know until you get punched in the mouth. Right? Isn't that Mike Tyson or somebody who says everybody has a plan until you get hit in the face?
Mhm.
The Liberty did not take the hits last year particularly well in the postseason.
Yeah.
A fatigued Stewie, a frustrated Jonquel Jones, a Sabrina who has that next level, but just it's like, you know, when you're trying to learn how to use the gas and the brake at the same time, like, and you just don't have like, you know,
Yep.
like when you're learning how to drive, like that was Sabrina in the playoffs last year.
Yeah.
If she can, this is why I loved yesterday's game. Sabrina released completely whatever she felt she had to do to play with USAB.
Mhm.
Let it go. That to me shows a lot of maturity, that she's understanding what the pro game takes. She's understanding what being an elite level, a player at this elite level means, because she's going to have to compartmentalize if she wants to continue playing for USAB.
Yeah.
And at a time, I was a little bit nervous, and I was low-key mad at Cheryl for not giving Sab more minutes, but I was also proud of how Sab handled the minutes that she did have. And on a much smaller scale, and I mentioned this even on CBS, because you absolutely have to give Ka and Jackie all the credit, and Plum, I think, as well. Not a lot of people are talking about what Sabrina did to adjust and make sure she was of service to that USAB team.
Mhm.
When her number was called, she started the fourth quarter in that gold medal game. She was the one getting Ka and Jackie the ball until Jackie fouled out. She was the one finding them. She was the one tasked with finding them. You've got DT, the point guard, and for all intents and purposes, Stewie, who can also facilitate, and Cheryl Reeve leaned into, and Jewel. That's not really her position, but again, you got to do what you got to do for USAB. Cheryl went to Sab in that moment. And as someone who covers the New York Liberty, I absolutely love to see it. And I absolutely love to see that Sabrina shed all of that. She was driving, she was getting that floater down. It was Killer Instincts light, because again, they were playing LA. But she's my leading candidate for MIP right now. I'm putting it out there. She is. Now, I have to say it with a grain of salt, because I likely will have a vote. I have to do a little more research on some of the other people. Dejanay, absolutely, I knew coming in was probably going to be a top player within that category. But her, I don't know. It seems like perfect in my estimation as of right now that Sab could be MIP. But yeah, I don't know. Five losses. I think that's conservative. 5 losses for the Liberty the rest of the way out.
I think it's doable. I think it's very doable.
And that's assuming that the greatest chance, excuse me, is them playing the Aces. And I honestly don't think they drop both of those games. So then who else is picking up one of those losses? Because I don't think they lose to Vegas twice. I don't see it happening in the regular season.
I mean, well, hold on. Let me look at this one.
I mean, it absolutely could happen. I just think that Vegas is, again, getting a lot of respect for being the back-to-back champions, WNBA champions. The W does not stand for world, people. Anyway.
Just so we're all extremely clear.
It stands for women's. Mark.
Oh my God.
Oh, I can't stand that. Where is Noah when you need him? World champions of what? Of what? Gracious. Yeah, they're getting a lot of respect. Rightfully so. And You also have to respect what the New York Liberty roster has done. And I genuinely don't think we've even seen their best basketball yet. That's the other thing.
Dang, I thought they had one more at Connecticut, but maybe I'm
No.
mistaken.
6 or 7 losses, but please no damn injuries. That's the thing that worries me because I do think that this could be a Liberty team that falls prey to some injuries. Hope that's not the case. But then just go sign Gabby Williams and everything is fine.
Right? All
Six
signs
or
are pointing to
seven.
Gabby right now.
6 or 7 losses. Okay, so you think okay, so who are the losses though? You're taking who are we losing to? You're taking 2 losses to the Aces. I still don't think that's happening. Are you taking a loss to Minnesota? Connecticut?
I think those two are more probable than anybody else.
Minnesota and Connecticut?
Mm-hmm. I don't see it for Seattle. I just don't. I don't know why, but my spirit is telling me they're not taking one.
Well, Damien, luckily I have my vote and I already said she is the front runner for me. I don't yeah. I think she's much more improved. I really do.
It's gonna be a fun second half, man.
It is.
I'm
It
glad
is.
WNBA basketball is back.
6 or 7 losses. I don't know. I mean, Dallas, I think, is interesting to me. If Satu's really back, she did not look great against the USA in London. And I talked to her about that flat out. But she felt that it was a good barometer to have effectively her first game back. That was her first game back since her surgery, since her injury. No practices with Germany before then. And she's like, you know what? But that's a good barometer because for her, that's, the closest to what she plays at a WNBA level is that kind of competition and really basically on steroids. So that was interesting. And again, I think it was a little bit more psychological than physical fatigue, but I guess we'll find out because unfortunately, the Sabali sisters, and it hurts me to my core, they don't have the best streak when it comes to staying healthy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hopefully luck can change.
Aces, Connecticut, Lynx. All right. So that's 3 of your 6 or 7 losses. That means they have to lose to Seattle at least once if they're getting to 7 losses. They have to lose, or I guess Dallas. Dallas is an interesting team. I still think New York should be able to win those games, but I'm very curious to see. I don't know if Dallas is going to steal some from New York, but I think they'll steal some wins from other people if they stay healthy.
Yeah, I don't think they're fully out of the fight yet because the back half of the second or the first half of the season, interesting. Also, these adjustments they're gonna have to make, losing Mo, losing Odyssey, which I'm broken by.
I know. And who do they play though? Who do they have? So they have New York. They're playing Connecticut tonight. Dallas, that is. LA, Vegas, Minnesota, Indiana, Washington, Atlanta, Chicago, New York. Oh, dang. Yeah, we play them 4 times. 3 or 4 times. Interesting. All right. I feel like we got a lot accomplished here. Now we're just like looking at the schedule. But it's good to be back, Misha.
Yes, it was wonderful to be back on Gotta Get Up. I missed all the seafoam. I missed just all of this. Like talking basketball, there's nothing like it. Even if it's New York Liberty basketball.
Wow. Wow.
Y'all know I rock with y'all.
On that note, it's time to awkwardly wave goodbye. Damn. Yeah, Seattle, Dallas, and then a rando trap game. Trap games are always so interesting. Trap games, like the term trap game, I find intriguing. I think, okay, hot take. I think Vegas could fall into a trap game more than the Liberty. I think they already did, though, in fairness. The whole first half of the season for them was a trap game.
I mean, the thing about it is with the Washington Mystics is like one in every 6 or
7.
7
I
of
was gonna say
those.
7.
Yeah, 6 or 7 of those, they come out and handle
Ooh,
business and finish the
fair.
job.
That's fair.
I mean, because did you see them against
Yeah.
Minnesota?
Yeah.
It's they win through when you said when you were going through the games that the Liberty could lose. I was like, well, you might lose the first 3 quarters to the Mystics, but that fourth quarter, y'all got it. That fourth quarter, y'all got it. So
Oh
hey,
gosh.
I
Yeah.
think they could ruin some teams. Well,
I
I'm about
mean,
to start getting
Shakira
on a whole nother
coming.
soapbox. Let me be quiet.
Listen, Shakira looking healthy and mad. Ooh, she was hella
And
mad.
peeved. Okay.
Yo, I was like, girl.
Yeah.
Yo, yeah, I don't know who got into and then we really will shut it down. I don't know who got into the ear of Minnesota's broadcast booth, but at one point they had to walk back some things. They were like, well, we're not saying it like in a bad way. I was like, y'all were on
Oh,
her.
see, I don't know nothing about that because I'm watching Monumental Sports Net.
Oh, see, there you
Okay.
go. There you
Good
go.
old Megan McPeak and
There
Christy
it
Winter
is.
Scott and
There it
Chastity Melvin
is.
and the crew.
See, I always forget I can toggle the broadcast,
Yeah.
but yeah, because yeah, then don't. I mean, if you're petty like me, absolutely listen to it. If you trying to keep your peace, maybe don't. But they were like, well, not that it's a bad thing. I was like, yeah. Who tapped you on the shoulder? Who tapped you on the shoulder? Because they were
Somebody got in
going
your
in.
ear.
They were going in, effectively kind of making it like, because she had gotten a technical and then she was calling for fouls,
Mhm.
which was very clear. And I was like, okay, like I get it. Like a lot of players do it, but it was just like, I don't know. It seemed like a little like, okay, like clearly you're upset about this, but like, I don't know. Yeah, the Mystics.
Next year.
Wait till next year.
Wait till next year.
Wait till next year.
Yeah.
What an interesting. I'm curious to see how the Tebow coaching tree continues there. I've never been into Eric Tebow as a head coach, to be honest. Not really sure I'm feeling it.
And now that I don't know. I feel like I was used to Mike. And I expected part of me expected because it was literally passing the torch to your kid that things would move in a similar way. And it
Yeah.
hasn't exactly.
Yeah.
But it's also a very different situation. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I'm chalking this whole year up to rebuilding at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. We might have to get a Mystics podcast because I would really love to digest. Like, let me just ask this because what else are we doing right now? Okay, what is the vibe? Like, did was Tosh trying to stay and it just wasn't working, or
It feels like Tosh was ready to step into a role as a more significant piece. She was already a significant piece, obviously. Dropped a 30 piece against New York in their last game of the season last year. Like, we know she ended up being a significant
hella
piece.
respect?
Yeah, she ended up earning a lot of respect, but I don't know if that was the plan for her necessarily within the Mystics.
Why?
Which, again, like you're saying, it's kind of wild. But I think she was just ready, kind of the way we're seeing Marina now going to Connecticut and like, look, I'm just ready to really dig in and see what I can muster on a team where we could really make some waves kind of vibe. Because it did feel like she wanted to stay. I was uncertain until the final news dropped as to whether or not it was actually going to happen, if the move was actually going to be made. So, but I'm also not covering the team the way I have in the past.
Right,
so
right.
I'm hesitant to like say these things in absolutes, but that's the vibe that I got is Tosh was ready to take her career to the next step and be a priority.
Yeah.
And just wasn't.
I haven't watched enough Phoenix. I need to like, how's that working out though?
I mean,
like, what are they doing? Like, what's going on there? I gotta watch. I watched. Who did they play? Oh, Chicago. No, I didn't watch. I haven't watched that game yet. They played Chicago, right? Not Kyle rolling up in her own Chicago.
I get it.
Jersey.
I get it.
That is hilarious to me. Hilarious.
Your only finals MVP. She got that. She got them bragging rights. Can't take that away from her.
It's true. It's
Yeah.
true.
So
It's true. Chicago. How interesting. How interesting. How interesting. They've been. I saw Angel Reese trying to recruit Gabby, and she was like,
yeah.
"Not the way they did me." I was like, "Dang!" She definitely called out Chicago by name
Yeah.
in some of her prioritization conversation. Again, if you want to know more about prioritization, I listen to our Seattle Storm podcast. We're going to record on Sunday. Got to finalize the time, but it'll be hopefully before the first games. Um, Woo! God is something else. All right. Who's playing right now?
Hell.
Who's playing right now or is about to play? Ion. I hope Ion finds their way in this
Se-
new deal.
Seattle and
Oh, Atlanta.
Atlanta play at 7:30, and then Phoenix and Indiana at
Oh, so we still
7:30.
got some time.
Yeah.
Oh,
Time to eat dinner.
exactly. That's what I meant. I was like, yeah, I was like, to be clear, not to stay on here. Um, yeah, Phoenix. Oh, Indiana, of course, Indiana. Uh, And then CBS we got 2 games tomorrow. Look at that. We got Minnesota, Washington. Look at that. On CBS. Look
I
at
will
that.
be tuned in.
Locked in. Alrighty. Speaking of CBS, I will be doing a pregame and post-game for New York versus Las Vegas. So tune in to CBS Sports HQ to check that out. And then on Sunday, we will record an episode of our Seattle Storm podcast. We still got to finalize the name, but we'll give you some of the names that we're thinking about. So if the Seattle Storm is your vibe, check me and Roberta out on Sunday. And don't forget to join the Slack channel. I am going to be doing all of the news for Black Rosie Media there first and foremost because, we don't know what Elon and his cronies trying to do to social media these days. So we want to make sure we have a home, a hub for all things Black Rosie Media. So make sure you check that out. But okay, now for real, not just throwing shade at Misha for the umpteenth time on the podcast. We're going to awkwardly wave goodbye, bid you adieu, good night, go eat something, and then watch these W games because they're going to be good. But tomorrow's the big one that we're looking for. All right, no more than 7 losses the rest of the way for New York. We're going to see. Let's see who got the number right.
We're gonna see.
I think 5. Anywhere from 5 to 7, but we're on the 5 side. We'll see. All right. Good night, y'all.
Bye.